Welcome to the Cell Guru Show, and I'm very excited today because we've got two really interesting phones. Samsung Galaxy F62. You know, Samsung really trying to do something dramatically different at this price point and taking on a lot of big names that have already established themselves, OnePlus, Vivo, others that play a great game around here. We'll talk to you about the phone, we'll actually review the phone, and we'll also compare this phone with others that are the big ones at this price point. Then we'll move on to this. Motorola again coming with something very interesting, the Moto E7 Power. Again, of course, power being the giveaway that this is all about big battery. But you know, now that almost every single brand has understood how much battery is important, when you say power, what do you need to give? Because this one, the Galaxy F62, has a 7000 mAh battery. The Moto doesn't have that kind of battery life. So is it still in the power series? We'll talk about this and a whole lot more. But I think the big one, and something I now want to start doing on a regular basis, is talking to the top management of brands, companies that make phones, and asking them tough questions that have always been in your mind. For instance, we're going to talk to the top management of Xiaomi, all the three top people out there. We'll ask them things like, you know, what was their biggest struggle? When they came into the country, they were such a small little company. How have they made it so big? But more importantly, we'll talk about things like this confusion between Poco, Mi, Redmi, and we'll also talk about the adware and bloatware. So that and a whole lot more happening on the Cell Guru Show. We'll start off with this, the Samsung F62. Now, you know, it's pretty much a standout phone, but do remember, it's coming into a price category that is extremely well populated. Huge amount of competition for it. I'll tell you some of the good things in this phone. Very nice looking. The camera seems to be very nice. Also 7000 mAh battery. The other specs also looking pretty good.
The mid-range segment is where the smartphone competition is at, and Samsung is bringing the fight to Xiaomi and OnePlus. Its claim to fame? Flagship-grade performance in a phone that definitely does not cost flagship money. So how does the Samsung F62 differentiate itself? Let's find out. One look at the phone and it's clear where Samsung has cut corners and where it didn't. The glass stick back does not feel particularly premium and attracts fingerprints and scratches. The competition wins here. We did, however, like the tactile feedback, and the fingerprint scanner embedded in the power button is excellent. The front of the phone again shows some interesting design choices. To start with, the 6.7-inch Super AMOLED LED display is stunning to look at. The colors pop and the videos look absolutely vibrant. However, the lack of HDR support and high screen refresh rate is a bummer. The Samsung F62 is equipped with 4 cameras over at the back. These include a primary 64MP shooter, a 12MP ultra-wide, a 5MP macro camera, and finally a depth sensor. The primary camera does a decent enough job, but in bright light it tends to blow out highlights. The ultra-wide sensor meanwhile takes reasonable shots. There is a 32MP front camera that clicks good selfies and portraits. But what about performance? The F62's claim to fame is its Exynos 9825 chipset that we first saw on the Note 10. Just like the flagship, performance is very good and day-to-day usage is absolutely perfect. That said, the 2-year-old processor is starting to show its age, and we have noticed a few stutters in the UI during heavy multitasking, and frame rates can occasionally dip in popular games. The other big selling point is battery life. Clocking 7000 mAh, the battery size is massive and the phone can go on for days on a single charge. In our time with the phone, we could easily get 2 days of use out of the F62. There is a 25-watt charger in the box. The phone runs on Android 11 with Samsung's One UI on top. The Cell Guru verdict? Overall, the Samsung F62 will appeal to a very specific user. Sure, the cameras and the performance are satisfactory, but it is the battery life that truly stands out. Add to that Samsung's commitment to long-term updates and you've got a phone that serves a specific category of buyers. The phone is priced starting at 23,999 for the base 6GB RAM and 128GB variant and goes up to 25,999 rupees for the 8GB RAM and 128GB version.
Let's move on now to our second top story, the Moto E7 Power. Now, I said this in the beginning, the minute you say power, people expect a great battery. And of course, this one has a great battery, pretty nice looking phone, also has all the things that you're looking for. But now that a Samsung can have 7000 mAh, it's the second phone from Samsung that has a 7000 mAh battery. When you use the word power, did you actually put in enough power with this one?
If you've ever wanted a smartphone with stock Android under 10K, Motorola has answered your prayers. The Moto E7 Power is Motorola's weapon of choice against the likes of Realme, Poco and Redmi, which are lighting up the sub 10K price segment. But does the Moto E7 Power live up to its power branding? It's time to find out whether this phone is worth the money. The most striking factor of the Moto E7 Power is the big screen. You get a massive 6.5-inch HD Plus screen here and the colors look okay. There are a ton of ways to mess up the screen of a smartphone, but Motorola has done well here. During our binge watching sessions, we were satisfied with the experience. For the price, there isn't much to complain here. A solid reason for the good and uninterrupted viewing experience was the phone's battery. Motorola has bundled in a big 5000 mAh battery in the E7 Power, and it is one of the standout features of this device. The phone is quite easily a two-way device, and during our time with it, we didn't feel the need to reach for the charger. But if we had to point any flaw here, it is with the 10-watt charger that Motorola has provided. This means that the E7 Power takes a really long time to go from 0 to 100. Motorola also gets good marks in the build quality department. The phone feels really good to hold in the hand, and while it is on the heavy side, the matte finish on the plastic back feels really good. The phone doesn't catch any fingerprints either. Another little thing here is the texture of different buttons. The power button and the Google Assistant button have different textures, which is a really nice touch from Motorola. In typical Motorola fashion, there is a rear-mounted fingerprint scanner which is on the Motorola logo. We feel that this is the best implementation of a fingerprint scanner, and the one inside the Moto E7 Power is pretty fast and accurate. Diving inside the phone, the Moto E7 Power has a dual camera setup at the back. There is a 13MP main sensor and a 2MP macro lens. Camera performance here is nothing out of the ordinary as expected from smartphones in this price range. The primary sensor churns out decent looking shots in well-lit conditions, but the macro lens can be avoided. Flipping the phone, there is a 5MP selfie camera that offers various modes for taking some promising selfies, but again we weren't blown away by the camera. Let's talk performance now. Motorola has priced this phone very competitively, and for 8,299 rupees we expected good performance. Internally, the phone runs on 4GB of RAM and the MediaTek Helio G25 processor. While there was the occasional lag during gaming, overall the processor holds its ground. The software is an important factor in determining how the phone performs, and Motorola has done well in that department too. There is a stock Android 10 with basically no bloatware here. There is 64GB of storage on board along with support for expandable memory. Weighing the pros and cons of the Moto E7 Power, the only area where this device is lacking is the optics. On the positive side, there is a massive 5000 mAh battery, a 6.5-inch HD Plus screen and great overall performance. All of this combined with the price of 8,299 rupees make the Moto E7 Power a great buy for anyone shopping at this price point.
Now let's move on to the most exciting part of the show. And I said I'm going to do this on a very regular basis, asking tough questions to companies that actually make the phones that we actually plunk our money down and buy. So today we're going to do this with Xiaomi. The top 3 people from Xiaomi joining me. I don't think it's ever happened before. I'm going to ask them everything. I mean, we're not going to shy away from asking any tough questions. So gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. Like I said, maybe the first time this is happening where all 3 of you are actually joining in into an interview. But like I said in the beginning, I'm going to ask some tough questions. So Manu, I'll start with you. Xiaomi, already established #1 smartphone player for quite a while. Elaborate a little bit on the journey, but more importantly, what have been the most important learnings for you in the last 6 years?
First of all, thank you so much, Rajiv, for inviting us, and always a pleasure talking to you. I remember when we started off, we always used to look up to you, right? probably very few people in the industry know about technology and smartphone as much as you do. So always a great pleasure talking to you. You would remember this 6 years ago in second half of 2014, we launched our India business in that small little hotel. In the basement of that hotel, you came over there for the launch event. At that point of time, honestly speaking, I wasn't very sure whether we will be able to succeed or not, because every time you would go and talk to a CEO or a tech enthusiast, of course not you, you were very optimistic, but majority of people were very pessimistic. They said like, oh Manu, you can never succeed in it. And they had genuine reasons. They said, point number one, this is an unknown brand. Nobody has heard of Xiaomi, Xiaomi, right? What is this? Second, you are going after a small little niche market which is online. And online at that point of time was 5% of the market. And third, you're not planning to spend any marketing dollars. Why would somebody come and buy a Xiaomi phone? So there was no reason why we should have succeeded. In hindsight, everything turned out to be a great thing. Our philosophy of not spending marketing dollars, of giving it back to the users, our philosophy of trying to be lean, first going online, and then also when we started offline in a very online kind of a way, being very cost efficient, really helped us establish ourselves.
Okay, Manu, I get that part of it, but let's talk about the biggest challenge in the last 6 years. Couldn't have been easy, right?
I would say if I were to reflect upon last 6 years, maybe 2/3 of the things, 2 out of every 3 things that we tried differently worked well. But 1 out of 3 things also failed. But the good thing was whatever failed, we shut it down quickly and then move forward without regretting too much. I think the biggest challenge, I would say by far the biggest that we have faced, is just convincing people to join Xiaomi in the early days. Like early days, now it is still easy, but early days 5 years ago, to try and convince somebody to come and join company, it was very tough. Nobody would come and join company. Even people would promise. On the day of joining, people would turn down our offer and say, my parents, my wife, my spouse is not allowing me to join. This is an unknown company. We don't know whether this will succeed or not. We will not join this company. So very thankful to the team members who joined us early on and trusted us, and all our business partners who made us who we are today. But probably the toughest thing was just convincing people to join us in those first 1.5, 2 years.
So Murali, something that is very important to all of us, especially it's becoming even more and more important, the whole Make in India idea. Now, you've done a great job till now, but how are you going to take this forward now?
Make in India is perhaps one of the things that we are most proud of in terms of having achieved in India. We have had 2 large partners in Foxconn and Flex who've set up multi-location facilities for us. But of course, the demand is much more than that. And hence, what we have done right now is added 2 more manufacturing partners to enhance our overall manufacturing capability. And I'm really thrilled to announce that this year we are bringing on board 2 new partners, DBG, who has already started manufacturing for us. DBG has a setup in Bawal in Haryana, which is about 60-70 kilometers from Gurgaon. And we're also bringing on board BYD, which is right now in the pilot stage and should start production anytime now and get to steady state by, let's say, end of H1. So starting from 1 partner way back in 2014, we now have 4 partners operating multiple facilities. We've also invested over the years in ensuring that our component manufacturers come and set up their facilities in India. As a result of all of this, what we have today is that 99% of the phones that we sell in India, in fact, I'd say 99% plus of the phones that we sell in India are made in India. And even more proudly, happy to state that close to 75% of the value of the phone is sourced locally by factories that are producing them in India. As of this point of time, we have about 60,000 people overall who have been employed directly or indirectly by the entire Xiaomi family.
All right, like I said, this is getting to be a very interesting interview, and I'm very glad that we're getting really frank, candid, honest answers from everybody. So let's continue this after the break. The overall perception that at least I have and most people have is that you are only making entry-level smartphones in India. What about the other big ones, the ecosystem? Raghu, this question is to you.
The last 2 flagship devices that we launched, which is the Meet NI in January and the Meet NT and Meet NT Pro in October. I think both of those devices, have been appreciated in the market, and both of them again have been manufactured here in India.
Okay, let's talk about some of the tough questions. First and foremost, this confusion that we have all the time. This Mi and Redmi, do they both actually have a different identity? Because at the present moment, people think, why is one called a Mi phone, one called a Redmi phone?
I think starting 2020, we very clearly announced that, we definitely have a distinct roadmap for Mi as a lineup. So I think starting 2020, we said that, listen, with the Mi series, we are going to be going a lot more premium.
Okay, Manu, this one is to you. Like I said, all tough questions. What's Poco? Come on, everybody now knows that Poco is part of Xiaomi. So what is Poco? What is Redmi? What is Mi? Why do you keep calling Poco a separate company? Is it really?
In the beginning of last year, I think January last year, 2020, is when we announced that Poco from now onwards is going to be an independent brand. What does it mean? It means that Poco will have a separate product team, will have their own separate sales and marketing team, will manage their own operations end to end. If we help them, of course, Poco will have to pay for it just like as a client and a customer. And everything will be done at an arm's length distance between Poco and Xiaomi, which is Mi and Redmi. And that continues till date. Where Poco is run completely independently of what the Xiaomi operations and Xiaomi product portfolio is.
All right, Murli, this is the question that is the billion-dollar question that every single human being in India will want to ask you. Software is one of the major issues on all Xiaomi devices. How are you going to address this concern? You've made huge strides. I absolutely understand huge changes you've made. But this whole adware and bloatware that still continues, and the fact that people don't know how to switch it off, shut it off, get rid of it. Do you think you could do more?
Over a period of time, I think we've got more than our share of bad rap as far as some of the adware and bloatware situation is concerned.
Right.
But let's be clear on one thing, and thank you for acknowledging it. We've made enormous progress on that front. There was in terms of the number of ads that we put, what are the kind of applications that we put these ads on? There is a security application. There are some ads on that. There is a themes application. There are some ads on that. But what is the reality? If you download a smartphone cleaner app from the Google Play Store, and if you download it for free, of course it's going to be ad supported. If you download like a wallpaper app from the Google App Store, and that specific app is free, of course it's going to be ad supported. So honestly, we're not doing anything fundamentally different from stuff that's already exists. And here it's important to distinguish between the core apps and the support apps, right? The core apps are stuff like camera, like gallery, like phone, like messaging, and so on and so forth. And we have no ads there, right? That has to be extremely clear to all of us. There are no ads on the core apps.
All right, Manu, last question to you. Where do you see yourself in 4 to 5 years? What's the vision for 2025?
If I look at our biggest business, which is smartphones, while we've been the number one for last 3.5 years, and we've been the number one brand in the online segment for 4 years, but in offline, we are still number 2, number 3 brand. But I believe we have still a long way to go. Now, Mi and Redmi operating fairly independently with independent teams, independent business teams, marketing and sales teams. I hope we will be able to create distinction between the two brands, and we will be able to do justice to both the brands. Because we were so focused on capturing market share, we never did focus on both the brands separately, independently. But now we are correcting it. That's priority number 2.
So the promise that I made about doing this on a regular basis, choosing a company, asking them tough questions that are on your mind, we'll keep doing this. Now it's entirely and totally up to you. What's the next company we should reach out to? That and a whole lot more in Sell Guru next week.